mentioned the point spread. And
I think that should be mentioned somewhere. This is the lot, we're gonna take the whole.
James, I went over our list, Russell stuff. You see some things.
All right, I got 7 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order. If you stand, invocation, remain standing for the pledge. Doug, would you like to lead us in prayer?
I will. If you'll bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the awesome place that we live, both this country and this town. And we thank you for the responsibilities we have and that we're able to make decisions that we hope and feel are in the best interest of those people that we represent. We pray that you'll bless this meeting and help us to make decisions that are best for those that are part of this community. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item we have on the agenda is approval of the minutes for the August 15th joint project and budget meeting, as well as the September 21st regular meeting. You had these minutes in your agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So ordered.
A second. Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse?
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker?
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves?
Yes.
Councilmember Head?
Yes. All right. Next is the adoption of the agenda. Do we have any additions and arounds or anything?
Mayor, if it pleases the council, I have one addition that would follow Section C. And we have swearing in of several officers and some accommodations to be made by the Chief of Police. Also, item number 4, I have received a request from council to table that matter till such time as a work session can be had, and would ask that item 7 be moved to after the executive session.
All right, you heard these recommendations. I hear a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So
Motion here, second. Motion and second.
now, while we moving forward, I thought
Discussion.
There was a request to table item 4 until we can have a work session to cover proposed rents.
So therefore, we're keeping, that would be keeping that thing vacant till then?
It's not ready for anyone to move in.
It's still gotta be fixed up.
Right, you
Okay.
gotta get placed the flooring and all
Okay.
that.
so it's not ready right now.
It's not.
So we gotta
You
go.
said it today.
No,
Okay.
I don't think it'll be ready. It's not ready today.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse?
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker?
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves?
Yes.
Councilmember Head?
Yes. All right. Mike. And Cooter's in the back. That's who y'all supposed to arrest. Cooter. Cooter Walker.
All right, well, Mr. Mayor and council, thank you for accommodating me and throwing me on the schedule tonight. I've been meaning to do this for quite some time, and just things get away and you get busy, but one thing I always wanted to do when I had the opportunity to be a chief is remember where I came from and how things were, and it was very, very seldom that you got a pat on the back. So to me, it's important that when my officers do things that deserve commending, that they get recognized and that we do that publicly. So I have brought a slew of officers in here for specific reasons. 2 officers, Officer Tamara Hand and Officer Joshua Warren are 2 new officers to the department that we're going to swear in tonight. But the rest of them are here for other reasons. So I'm going to start with Corporal Dix. If you let everyone know who he is, Corporal Dix and Officer Sanders. I'm going to start with them because they're both on duty right now and I need them back out on the street. So this is a letter of commendation for these officers. So I have several letters of commendations for these officers, and the first paragraph in all these letters are basically the same language. So I'm going to read it one time and then I'm going to read the meat of each one for these officers so you know why they're being accommodated. But this says, the Thomaston Police Department believes in recognition of officers, their actions, and outstanding efforts in service to the community and the performance of their duties. In keeping with this belief, the Thomaston Police Department would like to recognize the actions and outstanding efforts of Corporal Connor Dix and Officer Justin Sanders for their handling of a child not breathing medical call for service on September 2nd of 2023. On September 2nd, dispatch notified Corporal Johnson, who's also with us, the shift supervisor, of an EMS call involving a 1-year-old baby that was possibly in cardiac arrest. Corporal Johnson immediately requested personnel from his shift respond to the scene due to the fact that there were no other first responders at the scene at the time. Corporal Dix and Officer Sanders quickly responded to the scene to assist. Corporal Dix was the first on the scene and the first responder on the scene, and he immediately jumped into action. Corporal Dix evaluated the juvenile and realized the baby was struggling to breathe, therefore began to conduct CPR on the baby. Officer Sanders arrived on the scene and consoled the parents and who were very visibly upset, and it was a very traumatic scene, as you can imagine. Their 1-year-old child, they believe, is in cardiac arrest. But he was able to calm the parents and control the crowd and relay information to dispatch and to the responding EMS personnel. Corporal Dix was able to successfully keep the baby alert and breathing until EMS arrived on the scene. EMS praised Corporal Dix and Officer Sanders for their quick actions, and the parents also praised both officers via Facebook. Corporal Dix and Officer Sanders' quick response and actions allowed them to medically assist the child until EMS arrived and helped calm and control a very tense and emotional scene. I'm very proud of the composure in a stressful situation, dedication, and professional manner in which they handled the incident. It's a credit to themselves and a positive reflection of the types of professionals that we have at the Thomaston Police Department. Thank you, gentlemen. We should give you a letter. Thank you, sir. So I can go back to work. Sure, thank you. Next up is Officer Jake Janowski. Officer Janowski is our youngest officer in the police department and has done a fine job for us. Like I said before, this begins basically the same about recognition, but it talks about that we want to recognize Jake for his efforts in the apprehension of a domestic violence suspect who assaulted him with a gun while he was trying to arrest him. This happened on June 30th, 2021. It was a Wednesday, June 30th, at approximately 1:30 in the afternoon, and this is a very condensed version of what really happened. Officer Janowski responded to a domestic disturbance call. After investigating the call, he determined that he was going to make an arrest of a male subject that lived in the house. The call was basically a brother and sister that had been in a physical altercation at the house. The subject had fled the house prior to his arrival, but later returned, climbed through a window of the residence. Family members, afraid of this individual and afraid of what he was going to do, had fled the house and were hiding in bushes outside the house when they called 911 a second time. Officer Janowski arrived back at the scene and was waiting for backup to assist them, knowing that this subject would most likely fight or flee again. So he waited for assistance to arrest the offender when the subject fled again through the house in an attempt to avoid being arrested. Officer Janowski immediately pursued the subject through the residence and out the back door. The suspect fell and upon jumping back up took a fighting position and struck Officer Janowski in the face, breaking his nose. Little did we know at the time he struck him, he had a pistol in his hand and he hit him with the pistol. Officer Janowski managed to keep his composure and was able to successfully tackle the suspect after his nose was broken to the ground and place him in handcuffs in spite of his injuries. Shortly after getting the suspect subdued, additional officers arrived to assist. While surveying the scene after the arrest, a pistol was located laying on the ground where the suspect was arrested. Reviewing the body cam footage, we determined that the suspect had the pistol in his hand and struck Officer Janowski in the face with the gun. And actually, I have a really nice photo of his nose, and you can actually see the pistol had a hammer on it, and you can see a perfect indentation of the hammer across his nose where the subject hit him with that. Again, his response, his determination, his decisive actions afforded himself the opportunity to quickly apprehend the suspect and prevent him from hurting anyone else. I'm very proud of the vigilance and determination and professional manner in which Officer Janowski handled this situation. And again, it's a credit to himself and a positive reflection of the type of personnel that we have at our department. It was very amazing when you watch the video that he was able to do what he did and that he successfully took that man in custody after being, and we're very fortunate and blessed that that subject didn't decide to shoot him. Because when you watch the video, you can see he had his hand on that gun the whole time, and he could have very easily turned around and shot at him. So we're very blessed in that, and Jake did a very good job, and we got a guy who didn't need to be on the street off the street and recovered another weapon off the street. So good job, Jake. And he was back at work like 4 days later. Next up, I have Jared Fordham. Many of you know Corporal Fordham. He's been with us for a while. Jared does a really good job. This accommodation for Jared is in reference to him and his partner, K9 Benno.
You want to bring him in?
Yeah, go get it. No. For their efforts in tracking and locating a missing juvenile on this same night as Connor Dix and Sanders' baby incident. On September 2nd, Sergeant Rucker with the Upson County Sheriff's Office requested assistance from Corporal Fordham in reference to a canine track for a missing juvenile who had last been seen in a wooded area of Rocky Bottom Road. Corporal Fordham responded to the scene and deployed K9 Benno for the track. After a long track through the woods, K9 Benno and Corporal Fordham were able to track and locate the juvenile successfully. The juvenile was safely returned back to his parents. Sergeant Rucker showed great appreciation for Corporal Fordham and K9 Benno and stated without their assistance, the juvenile would not have been located as fast. Upson County EMA and SO personnel had already spent a good bit of time in the woods and had basically concluded their search for the juvenile at that time when they contacted Corporal Fordham. So his willingness to assist, his quick response, and attentiveness to detail while conducting the track with Benno was able to locate and recover the missing juvenile. I'm very proud of the work, dedication, and professional manner in which he handled this situation and his willingness to always assist others, and even another agency. It's a credit to him, and once again, a positive reflection on this department and the kind of professional that we have. Thank you, Jerry.
Chief, also like to pass along the council's condolences for Corporal Fordham's and his family's recent loss. So we've been thinking about you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
My last commendation is for one of our newest officers, this Officer David Mccoy. David joined us not too long ago and has been on the street for far less than a year. But he grew up here in Thomaston and he knows everybody. So in this particular incident, this commendation is in reference to his attentiveness and efforts in the apprehension of a homicide suspect just a few days ago, October 3rd, 2021. On Saturday, October 2nd, 2021 at approximately 11 p.m., Officer Mccoy was monitoring a five-way intersection for a vehicle that they had received a bolo on earlier in reference to an alleged assault, which had nothing to do with the homicide case. While observing the intersection, Officer Mccoy observed an unrelated vehicle, a blue Dodge Charger, that he believed matched the description of a vehicle driven by a subject that was wanted for questioning by Columbus PD for a homicide. Earlier in the week, investigators from Columbus PD had been in the area searching for the subject. The subject they were looking for had an active probation violation warrant for their arrest. Officer McCoy was familiar with the subject, as he knows everyone in Thomaston, it seems to be, and knew that this subject drove a similar type vehicle that he spotted. Once he spotted the vehicle, he followed the car, radioed for additional units, and conducted a traffic stop on Walker Street. Once he made contact with the driver, he knew in fact it was the suspect Columbus PD was looking for. He calmly kept the subject detained until backup arrived, at which time, they, with their assistance of Officer Sanchez and Officer Clerk, they took the suspect into custody without incident. And let me tell you what, when you're taking a homicide subject into custody without any incident, that's a very good thing. And a lot of it was due to his talking and the way he spoke to the guy and the way he talked to him and handled the situation. Officer McCoy's quick response, recognition of the potential severity of the situation, and immediate actions afforded him the opportunity to quickly and safely apprehend the homicide suspect. I'm very proud of the dedication, professional manner in which he, Officer McCoy, and his fellow officers handled the situation. And once again, it's a positive reflection of himself and on this department and the kind of professionals that we have. And I would like to also point out that Corporal Johnson's in the room, and I depend often on the supervisors and people to point out these things because I'm not out there in the street and know what they do. And it was Corporal Johnson that brought several of these incidents to my attention and made me very aware, and actually wrote up his own little write-up for each officer and sent them to me. So actually I stole some of his stuff. He probably recognized it. With that said, that's my commendations. Y'all can be dismissed or stay for the swearing if you want, but I appreciate you guys coming in, and I appreciate what you guys do for our department. It means a lot. Sure. All right, we have two officers left. I'm going to introduce them both real quick, and then the mayor's going to come around and he's going to actually swear both of them in. If both of you want to come stand right here. All right, this is Officer Tamara Hand. She just graduated from the police academy about a week ago. She's been on the road for about a week now. 2 weeks. Time goes. But she's our brand new officer. She previously worked for many years at Southern Crescent Technical School. She worked in their offices there and decided she wanted to give back to the community and become a police officer, and we're glad about that. And she's doing a great job so far. This is Tamara Hand. And I also have for you Joshua Warren. Joshua Warren is a military veteran, spent, if I'm correct, 4 years in the U.S. Marine Corps, from I think 2009 to 13. After getting out of the military, he joined the Warner Robins Police Department, pursued a career in law enforcement. Worked there for several years, then he went to, was it Muskogee?
Houston County.
I get them all confused. Houston County, worked for them for a little bit, decided that sheriffing wasn't for him, and went back to the PD. And I think he worked for a total of about 7 years for Warner Robins PD. And Warner Robins, if you're familiar, Warner Robins is a pretty busy little community. It's a big city, and they got a lot of stuff going on. And while he was there, he was a canine handler. He was also part of a fugitive task force, where they would find some pretty bad folks. So he brings a lot of experience with him. He came in as in the corporal position. He's brought a lot of experience to our department, and I know the guys have really appreciated it already. And several of the officers, several of the ones that were here, have already commented on what a big asset he's going to be to our department. So we're glad to have Joshua with us as well. He got out of policing for a short period and tried to do something else, and just realized that policing was in his blood. And so his wife works up here in Thomaston. At least this is what he tells me, that she really loves Thomaston, and he lives in Roberta. But he wanted to work up here where his wife is, and so he decided to come up here. A little slower pace than Warner Robins, but we've been pretty busy. But anyways, we're glad to have him. So with that, you can just read one for one.
All right.
The mayor's going to swear you guys
We're
in.
going to both in at the same time. Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Joshua Warren,
I, Tamara Hand,
Do solemnly swear or affirm that
do solemnly swear and affirm that
Y'all repeat after him.
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Georgia.
and the Constitution of the State of Georgia.
That I will faithfully perform all the duties of my office
That I will faithfully perform all the duties of my office
to the best of my ability and understanding.
to the best of my ability and understanding.
And that I will faithfully enforce the laws of the State of Georgia
And I will faithfully enforce the laws of the State of Georgia
and the ordinances of the City of Thomaston.
and the ordinances of the City of Thomaston.
I do further swear or affirm that,
I do further swear or affirm that
as a police officer, I will faithfully serve
as a police officer, I will faithfully serve
and protect to the best of my ability
and protect to the best of my ability
all citizens,
all citizens,
regardless of race, color, or creed,
regardless of race, color, or creed,
and perform my duties and obligations
and perform my duties and obligations
as a police officer
as a police officer
in an honorable,
in an honorable,
civil, and benevolent manner.
civil, and benevolent manner.
I accept and adhere to
I accept and adhere to
the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics
the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics
adopted by the Thomaston Police Department
adopted by the Thomaston Police Department
as my standard of conduct
as my standard of conduct
while on and off duty,
while on and off duty,
and swear to faithfully abide
and swear to faithfully abide
by and defend the same.
by and defend the same.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. That was a little bit harder to read than the book I've read at the pre-K today.
Yeah, but that's a much shorter version we used to do.
Stand,
All right, well, thank you all.
stand and take
You want your
pictures.
picture? All right, y'all come.
1, 2, 3. All right, good job.
Yeah.
All right, thank y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
And we do thank y'all, and Chief, we always hear a lot of complaints and all, but I personally have had way more compliments and people say things about your officers in the past year or so than I've had it, more, it outweighs the complaints that we're getting. So I really appreciate the thing. It says a lot for your leadership of the department and who we have there. And we appreciate y'all. And like we always say, we've got your back here because we know you're in a tough job and not many communities around the nation feel like we do, but we really support you. So
Well, we do know that, and I think my officers know that this council stands behind it. That means a lot to us. I appreciate it. Thank you.
all right. Next on the agenda, City Attorney's Report.
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
All right. City Clerk's Report.
Just 2 quick reminders. We have 2 vacant seats on the Historic Preservation Commission, and we have 2 vacant seats on the Community Relations Committee.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Anything from the City Engineer's Report?
Not at this time, Mayor, but he will have a presentation at the next meeting.
All right. Move to the City Manager's Report.
Mayor, the first item for council's consideration is discussion and potential action of RE Lee presentation and recommendation from the Community Relations Committee. I believe we have representative chairman's here tonight. Mr. Chairman, if you'd like to address the council.
If you could come up and stand by that, I think there's an X up there, isn't there? Something, so we can hear you and they can see you on the TV. I think there's a little X marks or something, isn't there something down there on the floor? Just right around there so they can see your pretty face on TV.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
I am honored that you chose us to represent the Community Relationship Committee. And the reason it's so important to me, in October 1970, 8 men's stood here this recommendation is the Reverend E.L. Clouden, who was the chairman of the committee, Mr. Monroe Worthy, Mr. Bobby Smith, Mr. J.E. Benton, Mr. Randall Durham, Mr. S.M. Hampstead, Mr. Willie B. Harris, and Mr. Joe White. And we still here had this same conversation. And they brought the recommendation in. And it was, he wasn't talking to the city council, but he was talking to the Board of Education. When we took this job, we quickly recognized that the Northwest Thomaston looked at R.E. name on the building as a blessing in their life. And while the Northeast Thomaston looked at the name of the building as a curse in this community. And we had this discussion. We, at the Northwest did not come or sit at the table for the discussion. You know, my vision of the Community Regulation Committee was to sit down in a conversation to make Thomaston shine by coming together to grow in our economic and have a better relationship with our neighbors. And like if we sit down and talk, basically, we don't know the reason why we didn't get more participation from the Northwest part of town. But in the Beacon, there was a whole lot of discussion. In the September 23rd, 2021 editor of the Upton County Beacon, a local pastor stated, and I quote, "For most of the South, the curse was deemed accepted because it was sanitized by the Bible, the Holy Bible. At the time that the U.S. had slave citizens looking to the pastor and the priest evangelized and preachers wrongly of slavery, and for 100 years, sermons dealing with slavery was told, even compelled little children's stories in the Sunday school." So, you like to say, that might be a reason because it's a biblical, but in 1970, we didn't know our history and we wasn't theological sound. And I don't know, I'm a child of God, and I believe God loved. The greatest teaching that God taught was to love one another. And this is the reason that I sit down, that we can come together and make Thomaston shine. Okay, the committee made a recommendation, and as part of the committee, I support the recommendation that we bring forward to you. And the reason that I support it have nothing to do with, or really have nothing, but I'm looking at Upton County. I was looking at Upton County. In 1970, when that decision was made, Upton County population been going down, down, down. In 1970, when we decided to become legal, already Griffin with 34% population, in Upton County 27%. And today, Griffin is bigger than Lamar, Pike, and Upton, according to 2010. And so the committee presented our recommendation that the already sign will be taken down and be placed on the side. We're not representing that you should move anywhere else, but just take the sign down and put it up on there, Thomaston government complex.
All right.
Any questions? Thank you.
All right. Before we entertain any discussion on this matter, I've wrote out a response that I'd like to read. The Community Relations Committee was formed out of the ideals of cooperation and open-mindedness with the intent to bridge ideological and individual divisiveness. As such, the City Council agreed to a supermajority consent for the appointment of persons to serve on this committee. It quickly became apparent that the committee could meet no such goals, with resignations rendering no supermajority representation, and accusatory statements signifying any lack of any will to bridge gaps. To that effect, a recommendation has been made to appeal the council for actions foregoing the appropriate level of representation and unity by which the committee was founded. The question before our council should not be whether to act on this recommendation, but rather to question the vitality of this committee and whether or not its commission serves the interests of our citizens. To say that, I say it does not. And I would ask this council to entertain a motion to disband the Community Relations Committee and further advise that any questions before the council that can be legally decided by the council be deliberated on and voted on as such. And I'll open it up for discussions there.
Okay, this committee that was appointed met only one time with all districts represented. After the first meeting, the representative from District 2 resigned. And I do not think,
District 4? Your district?
Three.
District 3.
oh, right, District 3, right. The gentleman resigned after the first meeting. So therefore, I do not think that the committee has done what I feel needs to be done to come to a recommendation. I think we should go back with all districts represented, and maybe even the mayor have an appointment, and let this group of people go back and look at this again. I don't think the committee, it wasn't well represented, because all districts were not, didn't have representation at the meetings. And I think for that reason, to go back and make appointments to those districts that were not represented, and we go back and we start with this again.
Anybody else?
One thing I would say is that, I would agree with Keith on a lot of what she said. I just think that, this committee deals with really a number of topics. This was one of them, and this was obviously a more difficult topic to talk about. I really think that, to discuss something this sensitive for what the recommendation is, and when you talk something that's this sensitive, I think you really need a broader discussion, and it certainly needs to be represented by both sides. Whether in the end, that broader discussion is really entertained more among the councilmen. I just think again, it's hard to support the recommendation because it didn't come from a broader discussion representing both sides. And so, but I do think a discussion on these topics needs to continue. Now, in what forum, whether among the committee or whether just among us, I think it's a discussion that is sensitive, and I just think it's got to have a broader discussion when you talk about it, but whether it takes place in the committee or whether it takes place among us, is something for us to at least think about.
Anyone else?
I guess I'm a little confused. I heard the recommendation, but the one that we've got is a little bit different. The one that was in our packet, the recommendation was to relocate into a different building and out of the current RE League building. But now,
From what you
sounds-
stated, you said not to move, just to take the name off the building?
I would put on that recommendation when they come out of committee. That's the one I'm gonna do. I know what I said, but the point is the recommendation that came out of committee.
okay. Well, I just want to make sure that we're.
That's override mine.
Sir?
That's override my statement.
Okay. All right, so am I correct to assume by the memo in here that the committee's recommendation is to find a different building for the government complex is what the group's recommendation is. Is that correct?
Because of the other is against the law from what we've been.
Right, that's why
That's
I
what
didn't.
kind of confused us.
Right.
Yeah, definitely the recommendation was to leave the building. And, you know, the other consideration was to take the name. Well, there's a law that prevents that. I don't think any of us want to violate that law. So, you know, and there, I will say, there may be other options with a broader discussion. There may be other options that, you know, find a middle ground someplace. And so I just think it's something that we just need to.
Well, no, I know we had once mentioned contextual stuff and stuff that would kind of.
Contextualization is definitely something that people ought to look into. And again, this is a subject that, you know, I think we all as a community want to be closer together. I really think that with this, you know, with this master plan that we've got, there's a lot of things going to happen in the future of this. And it all begins with people. And in the end, you know, I think we all have to think these things out together. And generally, when you think things out together, there comes a compromise. And that's what politics is. But I simply think that it's, you know, that the conversation should continue as to what's the best course.
Anyone else got anything to add?
So what's the stat? I mean, we've heard a lot of different things about the committee itself. What's the? I mean, are we all satisfied with the? How should I say I guess the context in which the representation was brought up by Council Member Reeves. Are we concerned, obviously, first about that, you know, and you know, you mentioned District 3, which is my district. You wouldn't. It's not from the lack of trying to find a person to serve. There was, in fact, I was turned down many times as we went through it. Be that as it may, I would personally like to see the group take on, you know, this is a truly an important issue. I understand that. I would certainly like to see it take on some more issues. I know we had to address some litter and some homelessness to some degree, but, you know, there are some other pressing issues that I would like to see this committee take up. And I didn't see the ones that I attended virtually. I just didn't see that, and that is concerning to me. Given some of those situations that we got. Again, I'm not downplaying anything that you presented, just saying that from my constituents' perspective, there are some other issues affecting them and affecting the community that they sure would have liked to have seen addressed.
This particular project did take a lot of our time. But if you look at the last video, then we began, after we did that tour, we went around the community and then we brought back many concepts. And I agree with you. It's not just about this. It's about a whole lot of things. And I think the committee should spend more time with that. Because this is, I agree, this is a touchy thing. I mean, I can understand on both sides of the track. And there's no win situation. And like I said, the committee would like to move on to something else that's going to make Thompson shine.
Perhaps we do need to kind of punt and then reconfigure, you know, give it a little bit more basis and direction from perhaps the council members as to what we would like to see. You know, certainly not saying you don't bring up your own topics. We want you to, in my opinion, operate it autonomously, but, you know, by the same time, there's, again, a lot of other issues that I would like to have seen addressed and my constituents would like to see addressed. So, to the mayor's point, I personally feel like that we kind of need to kind of back up and punt and, you know, kind of relook at this thing.
You know, speaking on your behalf, this issue ran a whole lot of people away from the committee.
Around what?
Ran a whole lot of people away from the committee because it's so touchy and so back home, it did.
I think there's a trouble of getting people to serve was for that, because they thought that was the main issue.
Yeah.
Well,
Mayor, if I may, I was gonna ask Councilman Tucker and Councilman Greathouse, do y'all think that we can find someone to serve on the committee out of y'all district? Do you?
Well, like I said, several people have turned the opportunity to serve down. I have two have just in the last couple of days said they will serve, and I've given that information to the city manager. So that'll be the next step, because we'll have to go through the city council to vote whether or not these people can serve on this type of committee.
As of late, I did have one gentleman in my district that did show some interest, but to Reverend's point, some of the issues, or the majority of the one issue that has been consumed a lot of their time was just, I'd like to see some other things that being discussed. So, you know, and it's also getting the right person that's representative of the district, of the people who have come forward to say, that, you know, whatever their feelings are one way or another about the community and about R.A. Lee. And again, I think this committee is bigger than R.A. Lee topic of discussion. So it's just finding that right person, because it's been tough, and we've all seen the meetings. So nothing against any of the members. You know, it is what it is, and it's just a very delicate situation.
Well, you know, once we started this committee, that was one of the topics that was on there, was about arguing. That's what got it started. And then we went from there and other stuff to it.
Right,
you know.
but there was a lot of discussion, and I agree with you. There was a lot of discussion, though, too, that this needed to be one that took on and took up all of the stuff around the community that either one group thought, you know, that maybe R.A. Lee is not as a big of a topic of concern, which I'm not here to debate that, but there's some that, you know, homelessness, some that litter problem, which they did take up to some degree, you know, economic development, and just other things such as that, you know, ought to have been taken up, and some people thought should have.
Further comments or actions?
Well, one thing I would just say is, you know, I just, again, we'll go back to something I said earlier. This is a really, a topic that's a very sensitive topic. It needs, you know, it needs really a full discussion or a broader discussion. And really, we don't have a full committee. And so it's hard for me to support the recommendation when we don't have a full committee that represents a broader discussion. So I want to continue the discussion, but whether that's in a committee or whether it's among ourselves, then I say let's do that. But right now it's hard for me to support the recommendation. Again, I appreciate the effort the committee's made, and I appreciate the difficulty of that, but it's hard for me to support it without representing both sides. I think the whole point that I want is to have a discussion, and to be willing to have a discussion about things without emotions getting into it, and just people talking from their heart, but just talking about things. And in the end, that's the only way to get things done, is to talk things out. And right now we don't have the full discussion and the full representation of both sides of it, and so it's hard for me to make a recommendation. So if it requires a motion, I'll make a motion that we not accept the recommendation and just, again, go down the road and see where the discussion goes from there.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse?
All right,
Councilmember
question. I'd like a restatement of clarification exactly what we're voting on at this point.
Right now, the motion was made to not accept the recommendation.
The recommendation is to move out of the building. There's a lot of reasons for that. One is cost. I'm a fiscal conservative. So I want a more full, broader discussion. My recommendation is that we not accept the my motion is that we not accept the recommendation because of the reasons I discussed earlier.
But we come back for discussion later.
Well, yeah, and I think that's something that we all have to talk about and say, in what form do we do that, and how do we do that? But I think it's something that requires a continued discussion.
Okay. Thank you.
Call the-
Councilmember Greathouse.
All right,
Councilmember Middlebrooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
I'm not sure how, what's what. I understand you're saying to not accept the recommendation from the committee, right?
Because the recommendation is to move out of the building. Their recommendation to us is to move out of the building.
Okay. So I'm in favor of the recommendation.
Councilmember Head.
Yes.
To clarify, that is a no vote.
Yes.
Because you
Mayor, the next item for council's consideration is authorization and adoption officially of the city's downtown master plan as presented by WLA Studios. You just have a cover sheet attached with your packet as kind of a mental cue, but for any of the general public who wish to view the master plan, we have a hard copy here. Do we have it uploaded on the website yet? Do you know?
Just going on the Main Street.
Shortly be uploaded to the city's website for the general public to view. So staff's recommendation is to officially adopt the master plan as presented at the last council meeting as an official document of the city of Thomaston.
You've heard that recommendation of the adoption. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Any second? Motion is second. Any discussion?
The only thing I would like to say is, y'all, I think this master plan is incredible. If you haven't read it, is it on our website now?
Not yet, but we're gonna upload it.
Can we get that?
It'll be there.
Quick.
Y'all, it's an incredible document. It has a lot of detail by urban partners that went into it. And also, for those of you who remember Heart and Soul, a lot of information came out of Heart and Soul. And to me, I really believe that because of this study and the work that the company did along with the WLA Studios is who did it, and the people, urban partners who provided the data, I really believe we will look back at this town in 5 years and look back at where we are now and think that it is so much better in lots of ways. But there are other things that have gone into that, such as the alcohol ordinances we've changed, the things that we'll vote on in the fall as far as package sale of distilled spirits. There's a lot of things that will go in there. And I just really think that this document is probably the most important thing. It's hard to say that because we did have an intergovernmental agreement with the city and the county for the upgrade of the sewer and to bring better sewer to the industrial park. But I think that this is an incredible thing, and this will make a real difference in our community. And I want to thank Taylor. Has started off fast, and I think he has a passion and a commitment. And so it takes, just like anything else, it takes a lot of pieces to the puzzle, and it's got to be everybody who really cares. And I think that's this council that allowed this study to be done. And then those of you who are people of faith can pray that we'll get that rural designation next week. And that will allow this community to change in a really good way. So thank you.
If we don't get it, Taylor has to leave.
Come on now.
Put that pressure on. No, it's a very good, like I said, it's hard to say, like you said, is this the most important thing we've done when you look at the intergovernmental agreement, but this has some probably greater potential
For the way this
For the way this-
community will look in 5 years, I
Bigger
think
impact.
It's a bigger, could be a bigger impact than that, which is a big statement to say that, so. Any further discussion on the master plan? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Grayhouse?
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker?
Yes.
Councilmember Reed?
Yes.
Councilmember Matt?
Yes.
Next item for council's consideration is potential authorization for the IDA joint sewer agreement. You should have attached with your packet, headed G3, a copy of the agreement. This is a three-party agreement between the city, the county, and the Industrial Development Authority. It is a complement to the intergovernmental agreement that was executed between the Upton County Board of Commissioners and the city of Thomaston. This is basically a regurgitation of some of the specifics that were entered into the IGA between the city and the county, since a lot of the issues run in parallel. However, the capacity that was created is actually assigned to the Industrial Development Authority via the other intergovernmental agreement, so it was necessary for all the parties to execute this agreement. It has been ratified by the Industrial Development Authority, and bring it here for council tonight with staff's recommendation to authorize the mayor to execute this agreement. Once it's executed by the Board of Commissioners, it will be final.
I think they're voting on it next week.
Yep. Is there anything you want to add?
No, it mirrors portions of the sewer agreement, specifically the capacity, as you stated, and it also addresses the capacity that's already been assigned, so those are covered.
So upon execution of this, this will be the document, and all other agreements become moot.
Yes.
That are versions here and there that are floating around. Motion to approve is presented.
We have a motion, do I hear a second?
One second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Grayhouse?
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker?
Yes.
Councilmember Reed?
Yes.
Councilmember Matt?
Yes.
Next item for council's consideration is discussion and potential authorization of the policy modification for fire and police department agility test. You should have a copy of that attached with your packet. I believe it is headed G5. The first of which is kind of a synopsis of the police department physical training standard, which is already adopted by post. I think there are some slight modifications, but there are no more stringent regulations in this requirement than there are in the post. Chief has blessed it and recommended it for council's approval. We've already been over it. And at this time, I'm going to ask the fire chief, she's in attendance tonight. Do you want to walk us through a little bit of the fire department's proposal, chief?
The fire department proposal for a physical ability test is some of the exercises that we do at the academy site. And this is what is recommended through the academy, and it's done through standards and training in the academy over there. So it mirrors what they do at the academy also.
So as presented, Mayor and Council, and feel free to ask questions about the specific issues contained within the policy, but staff's recommendation is to authorize the mayor to execute, and this becomes part of city policy. Now, there will be a staging up process, or a time by which officers, both fire and police, have before the physical agility test becomes active and counted towards its validity. And Chief, that's a year, right? We're giving them 12 months?
Yeah, for the police department, we'll enact, if passed, we'll enact it immediately January 1st, and they can pass it at any time that we offer the test throughout the year, but they would have to the end of the year. We'll be conducting the test 4 times, once a quarter. They can take it at any time that they choose, but they have to pass it by the last quarter.
What about new hires? They
New
immediately?
hires are already, the cadets that go to the academy are already
Already do it.
required to pass it to even get in the academy. But if we hired a certified officer, yes, they would be required to go through the course before we offer them a position.
Same with the fire
Yes, sir.
council. Council doesn't have to do that. Ryan's getting
Thank
worried, he's
God.
gonna have to do.
Any elected officials who wish to participate in a trial run
On camera.
the physical agility test, and we'll greatly Facebook Live that and upload it to the city site.
No, thank you.
We might get raised some money. People might pay to watch some of this stuff.
Not at my extent.
All right, you've heard this recommendation. I hear a motion.
So ordered.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse?
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker?
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves?
Yes.
Councilmember Hill?
Yes.
Next item for council's consideration is the requisition authorization for approval for breathing apparatus for the fire department. You should have attached with your packet headed G6 a copy of the quotations. You have two here. The recommended is on the first page from 10-8 Safety LLC in the amount of $43,202.80. This was a budgeted expenditure for the fire department, but because of the value of the expenditure, it requires council's confirmation prior to purchase.
All right, you've heard that.
Since it was a budgeted item, I'll make a motion that we accept.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse?
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker?
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves?
Yes.
Councilmember Hill?
Yes.
Mayor, I asked that item 7 be moved to after the executive session. We have two matters, both of which are real estate in nature. And for the first part, if it pleases the council, I'd ask that Mr. Smith join us in executive session for that conversation.
All right. So next time is, where we go in executive, is other business. Does anybody have any other business? I know we've got, Taylor, we got several activities still.
Yeah, I can talk about that real quick.
Hop up and let everybody know what's still got
I'll
going
come
on.
up there. Give me just a second. Hey guys, how you doing today?
Hey.
Hey guys. If you don't know me, I'm Taylor Smith. I'm the Economic Development Coordinator for the City of Thomaston. So I'm in charge of Georgia Cities Week for this week, October 3rd to October 9th. I'm sure you've seen my calendar of events that have kind of gotten washed away with the monsoon we've had this week. So we're trying to work around that with our fire hydrant paintings and our youth art wall. We did pick out our drawings today from our K through 5, so we partnered with Upson Primary, Upson Elementary School to do a kids drawing contest, and they submitted it to us, and Fawn DeRosa of Flint Road Studios actually will be painting these drawings on the side of baby lanes. This is going to be an annual youth art wall. We're going to do this every year and add new youth art to this wall. So this is K through 5. We chose one from each grade level, so that way they have representation in our community and feel like they have a voice. We also are doing the If I Were Mayor banner hangings. So we always do the If I Were Mayor essays. You know, the kids say, if I were mayor, this is what I would do. I kind of want to take that a little further this year. So we partnered with Heart and Soul, Tidal Wave, and Savvy Graphics to get a couple of quotes from our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, the winning essays, printed on banners. They were supposed to be hung each day so you'd see a new quote. But again, because of the weather, we kind of pushed that to Friday. It's going to be located on the side of the Tidal Wave building, so the old Thomaston Mills building in downtown Thomaston. And we're going to have 6 quotes. We have 2 from each grade level. So I'm super excited to announce those essay winners with Mayor Stallings on Thursday at 8 a.m. On the Facebook Live for ULMS. It's homecoming week, so we have the homecoming parade Thursday evening. We're doing the downtown history walking tours. We did our first one on Monday. Again, the rain kind of dealt us a little blow, so we weren't able to actually walk around the square. But Miss Uphold was a part of that, and I think she can attest that we made the most of it. We got to tour St. Michael's, our local former First Methodist church. It was built in 1898. We got to hear from Pastor Birdsong about the history of that church. Jameson Graham, our archives director, she was able to give a presentation and present pictures of the square and talk about the history. And then we were able to pay a visit to the Ritz Theater and see what Mr. Woody Heath has done. And I can attest that the wait is well worth it. He's done an incredible job inside that theater. He's got his projector going, and he should be open, fingers crossed, within the next month. So we're really excited about that. We have 2 more of those, one tomorrow night at 6 p.m. and one Friday at 11 a.m. Friday, also at 11 a.m., we have our Lakeside Park opening. That's going to be at 800 County Road. I think that's the new address. So that's the Thomaston Reservoir, the Lakeside Reservoir. We're opening up to the public. It's going to be passive use for now, walking, running, biking. But moving forward, we would love to potentially do some fishing events there. It's a great community asset, and we really want to enhance it and let the community be a part of that. So we're really excited about that. And then finally, on Saturday, we're doing a kids fishing derby at Lakeside Park. Fall Line Bait and Tackle of Thomaston are sponsoring that. We've got volunteer opportunities, so if any of our council member would like to come out and help our kids fish, learn how to fish, it's there. So it's an exciting week. And then finally, our fire hydrants. We had a overwhelming response, to say the least, for the fire hydrants. We partnered with the high school and the middle school and had about 30 to 35 applications between the 2 of those. And we probably had about 55 applications for 22 hydrants. So it was a tough decision to narrow those down, but with that response, this is something that I feel like it brings vibrancy to our community and energy, and it shows the talent that we have in this community. We have a lot of talented people, and they just need a platform. And to say that we can give them that through our fire hydrants, I think that's something that we can expand on in the future, at least within the DDA district, and potentially incorporate that into a larger spring arts festival, that again unites our community and brings our community together. As Doug said, we have a lot of opportunity in our community to make this a better place to live, and I'm excited to serve and improve the quality of life. That's my job. I want to improve the quality of life for everyone in this community, and it starts with collaboration, and it starts with engagement. I want to engage our community, I want to engage our youth, and I want to give everyone an opportunity to feel like they belong here. So if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call or reach out. I'm here to help.
I don't know about putting their ideas on the wall. Now everybody's going to know where we get our ideas from.
Hey, look,
because from these essays every year, you're blowing it.
Look, it's really. I had a 6th grader that talked about fixing economic issues. So to me, that's somebody that I would like to reach out to, and Russell, I would like for him to reach out to and mentor this young person that's interested in local government and addressing issues in our community. That's just about giving kids the opportunity and letting them know that they matter here and they have a place to come back to. When I left here 6 years ago, I never thought I'd come back to Thomaston. And today I stand here and say I couldn't imagine being anywhere else and being in a town with so much opportunity and so much potential. And I'm truly blessed to be back home.
I know me and Miss Lakeitha have mentioned like a youth council before, and we've just never been able to get the thing, but maybe we can run with some of these ideas and get some of those people and kind of
any way we can engage our youth, engage our community, and improve the quality of life. I'm here.
And one thing, Mayor, it used to be when we did the If I Were Mayor essay, we picked one that won, and we would let them come to a meeting and sit in your chair and present that essay. And I think that's really neat for them and their family. And it seemed maybe we did more than one. Maybe we did the top.
I think
2.
that top 10 would come and then they'd read the first one. I think
First
before
1 or 2
Yeah,
or 3.
that's
But to
definitely
me,
something to do.
that would, you talk about being more engaged, and I think the fact that you would let maybe the top 3 come and read theirs, in front of an audience and on the.
And I think they used to go up to state level, because I think we had a state winner a few years ago that won it, went to the state level.
Yeah, so I will be submitting all this information to GMA as a part of our Georgia Cities Week campaign. So hopefully they'll like it and feature us in some of their articles and get some excitement in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any other business before I get a motion to go to executive session?
There's a couple of issues that I wanted to mention, one of which has kind of been an ongoing issue for the last several weeks from one of the constituents, and I think it's good. I think when we did the ordinance for the, I call them trash cans, but they're the totes that everybody has, and you pull it out to the street, and then you bring it back. And I think when that ordinance was written, maybe it was written so that you only had to take it back to the, is that what it was, Russell?
25 foot.
It was hard to articulate, so we wanted a legally defensible position. The setbacks seemed to get us home because, you know, there are different building setbacks in different zoning districts throughout the city. However, I think we've clearly found that some people will pull it back to the setback, measured, you know, to the tape ruler and kind of leave it. So I think maybe the intent of the ordinance was good, but there's some potential loopholes that we might need to change and solidify so that our intent is actually met.
Yeah. And I think if if somebody's bringing it back and just leaving it in the middle of the yard, I think what we hope is for this community to look better and to look good. And that has to do with all our ordinances, you know, whether they be health and safety oriented but this is more of the appearance of our community. So I think we ought to work with that. And I personally wish they would simply have to bring it back next to the house, and then that way it wouldn't be left out halfway to their house. And that way, I think it would make the neighborhoods look better. So, you know, we'll have somebody work on. And then the other one that I had that came up in a discussion with somebody, and this is something that we've talked about. And Russell, I think maybe you and Taylor have already begun discussions for, is golf carts in the community. And I know that you know, there's been some discussion as to what they can and can't do. And I think that state highways present an issue, but you know, there's a lot of people that really enjoy not only the experience of riding in a golf cart, but in many ways it brings the neighborhood together because it's easy to get around in a quiet way and see people. And I want to see how we can make that happen within the framework of whatever the rules are as far as DOT. And I know maybe you can cross over those, but look at what other communities have done and maybe make that happen.
We have had the conversation. So my very high level understanding is that you can run parallel to state routes. They really don't want you on them parallel, but they will permit crossings if the appropriate sign is there or signage is there, and if it's a speed regulation, right? They don't want to allow you a perpendicular crossing if it's 55. But at intersections, I think that's something we could probably accommodate. I got to work with the chief on clearly identifiable markings and other mechanisms that would actually be required on the golf cart to make them street legal per se, to still be in compliance with the uniform rules of the road. So conversations are happening. I'm meeting with Taylor. We got to look at the chief in. So it may be a while, but we're working on a presentation.
Thank you.
And we've also had conversations with trash stuff with the person a couple times, so.
A couple times a day.
Yes, so we still know there's issues with that, so. Is there any other business? If not, I need a motion to go into executive session for the matters of real estate. That's it, right? Real estate?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Greenhouse?
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker?
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves?
Yes.
Councilmember Head?
Yeah.
Thank y'all for attending here. And y'all more than welcome to wait till we come out. We do have a matter after property executive session. Cooter, they wait. The law enforcement, they're waiting on you. They're gonna arrest you.
That dog got that.
The drug dog.
All right, we're back in regular session now. We can move to item 7.
Mayor, staff's recommendation is to authorize the city manager and the city attorney to reach out to the county manager and the county attorney regarding the proposed contract.
You've heard that recommendation. Do I hear a motion? Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse.
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond.
All right. Is there anything else? I hear a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Let's go home.
Y'all pray for traveling mercies for me and my family this week. My son's getting married next week. I'll try to be back before the next city council meeting.
All right.
Mazel tov.
Going down, get married down at the Harper Pines. Hey, it is.
I'll go down there. I appreciate it.
Yours is gonna be down there too.
Thank you for what you do, buddy.
Sometimes we get